Clap, sit, it's what I do. How's it going? It's Timmy Joe, making videos about computer parts, computers, all about, it's one right here on the internet. Today, finally, we have, a computer built. It's been a long time coming and I'm kind of angry about it, and we're not going to do a long dragged out video about it, but I want to do a video anyways to just lay it to bed, talk about my experience with the new Intel 10th generation, and show off this beautiful build and kind of let you guys know this is finally complete, and this is the way it's staying, I think, because I'm tired of the grief. So, did a video about this already. 10900K, super hard to get a hold of. I want to thank ASRock for a Chuki Z490. Seems like an amazing motherboard, Z, for all you out there who are worried about it. G-Skill for their Trident Z Royal 4000 megahertz CL17 RAM, amazing. And LianLi for the case and for the AIO as well. So ASRock, I will be testing your motherboard a little bit more thoroughly, but as far as I can tell, it's really easy to overclock on. RGB software, lots of connections, SATA. It's got two M.2 ports. It's got really great VRM on it, and I was able to overclock a 10900K to 5.3 gigahertz at 1.335 volts with it without much issue. Why do I not have that CPU anymore? Don't worry about it. I guess I'll keep it on the table for a minute. RAM XMP profile set. Way you go. Got it all hooked up with some white lights right now. By default, it's all RGB and whatnot, but I think this looks way classy in the white. I usually just go with white or blue in most build situations. Most of the stuff's blacked out here. There's a little bit of gold or copper cogs on the motherboard. You can't really even see them at this point. But yeah, it looks decent and yeah, whatever. And there's a construction site across the road and they're gonna be beeping and making noise. So just deal with it. It gets me mad, I have to deal with it. So, what else we got going on? LianLi Lancool 2 Mesh. We're supposed to do this when it launched and put this in here and do this build for them, and this is when it's happening. So beautiful mesh. I already reviewed the Lancool 2 and it did very, very well in my opinion. All metal design, meant to be more of a budget oriented case, around $100, and it really is a good case at that price. This one shouldn't be too much more. I'll put links in the description for everything, but what's switched up? Well, of course the mesh in the front, and Gamers Nexus didn't like that their old one just had some slits for some ventilation. This one is all opened up, and I think it looks really cool how inset I have the fans, which might present a problem later. I'll explain in a minute. But then there's this here, and this is also mesh. And what that allows for is good ventilation from here into your graphics card area, because there's vents here. You can even mount fans here if you wanted to. I have the vertical GPU mount, which is a really nice one because it's inset. It's not right here up against the glass. So lots of room for air to come in through these vents, through this vent, and get up at your graphics card. And you could even put some fans maybe underneath, but mostly I think they're meant to go on top if you need some extra cooling for your graphics card. I think this looks awesome, and it will present a problem at some point, this vertical GPU mount, for a graphics card that's too big for it. I can already see that. I can move this in, however. I didn't do that because I thought it was nice to see the LianLi logo and to see this nice gunmetal rad here. Ouch. But eventually I'm sure I'll wind up having to move this in the inch or so that it also allow for a bigger graphics card, because this is my graphics card test bench with what's supposed to be the fastest, CPU for gaming at the time. But I think it just turned out really, really nice. I really like the way this, you can move this around. This pump works really well. And as we saw, I just did a AIO shootout. The Galahad RGB that I used in this wasn't the best performer, but it looked really, really good, and it was only 3 degrees off from the NZXT Kraken X73 in my testing. So with 3 degrees I can live with, especially now that I don't have the hottest CPU out there, and it's in there. It's working great. I think that's about sums things up. So that stuff's all sent to me. Thank you very much to these companies, and this will be my GPU test bench for the foreseeable future. I like the vertical GPU mount because you can see the GPU I will be reviewing or doing stuff with, so super cool stuff. Yeah, I use the RGB fans from the case, but I move them up here. They're controlled with some buttons on the top. See? There we go, red, and the front there. Where's the white? There we go. White. See? There's sun over there. Don't they know I'm doing a video? And then there's a RGB controller. Look at the, I forgot to mention this. Look how good this looks in the back. Like, there is such good cable management options in this case. It's incredible. They got these covers here. You can see your SSDs, and then the other RGB controllers there for the pump and the fans for the cooler. So it all works out very, very nicely. So what's with the 10900K or the 10700K elephant in the room? Real quick recap, if you didn't watch my last video, wanted a 9900 or 10900K. I had a 9900K. It was doing just fine. I never ever should have even did this, but I wanted to accept a nice motherboard and do some content for ASRock. I wanted to get some G-Skill memory, and I thought, hey, I can buy the newer CPU. You know, that way I'm upgrading, and you know, we can get some content for the channel, and I'll have the best gaming CPU out there. Because I will say, even from the 9900K to a 3700X, both overclocked, you know, nearly as far as they can go, with very similar graphics cards, I will notice stutter in games. There is a latency AMD CPUs introduces in games that is just there. It doesn't mean it's going to kill your gaming experience. It doesn't mean it's bad CPUs for it. It's just, I'm just saying, when you go with the Intel, and especially at the very high frequencies, there's a complete lack of stutter. It's pretty awesome when you get going with one of these things. However, they're just so bad with 14 nanometer right now. They're just I don't know what they're doing. So I couldn't get a 10900K, and then when I finally could, I had even pre-ordered one. I had tried to get one shipped to me from a buddy that was in a city where they had some in stock at a local store. That didn't work out. I was like, fine, I'll just buy one at a really inflated price. I was spending like $1,100. Thank God for you guys, because you told me that Newegg was actually shipping some from the States after that video, so I wound up getting my money back, and I paid, in that last video with the AIOs, like I did a video using the 10900K. Like I did a whole video on it with 5 360 mil AIO coolers at 5.3 gigahertz, 1.335 volts. It was all working out beautifully. And then I wanted to put one more cooler on the motherboard. It was on a test bench on my, sitting on this desk, and I put an NHD 15. I wanted to do an air cooler for comparison's sake, because I was getting pretty good temperatures, like 90 degrees at super max overclocks with 360 mil AIO. That's really good when my 9900K was really always over 90 degrees, closer to 99 degrees at its max overclock. So they have improved the thermal design with these 10th generation processors. So I get that all hooked up, and well, after I put the NHD 15 on it, it just wouldn't boot again. Triggered over current protection. Every time I turned it on, it immediately shut off. So I thought I broke the motherboard, and I wasn't going to ask ASRock 2 months later for another motherboard. So I just ordered another Taichi motherboard, thinking if it works, maybe I'll do a little switch out with Amazon and they'll get the broken one back. If it doesn't work, I'll just send it back as it was. The crafty devil, I know. And of course, I get it, install it, it just does the exact same thing. You turn it on, triggers over current protection, shuts the power supply off immediately. It's the chip that's the problem. So I opened up a case with Intel, hoping they would replace it. But after some diagnostic and me definitely not telling them I had done any overclocking or any setting of the XMP profile, they told me Newegg should replace that. So I got in touch with Newegg, I sent them back, I fibbed a bit and said it just didn't work right from the get-go. And they just gave me my money back because there's no stock on the 10900K. So that's where this guy comes in. I just ordered the same CPU, 10700K, 9900K, same CPU, and I thought maybe I'd get that extra 100 megahertz because I could only ever usually get my 9900K to 5.2 gigahertz at like 1.375 volts or something like that. Nope, literally almost the exact same overclock with this, only the temperatures are a little better. 5.2 gigahertz is the max this chip will go. at 1.365 volts, which is way more than the one that had 2 more cores that I just had, but I guess you pay for the better silicon, you know, with the 10900K, if you can find one. And it's pretty disappointing. I even built this whole system up, started it, and it triggered overcurrent protection, and I almost lost my shit. I thought somehow building the system, I tested it beforehand. I put it on the bench with just a CPU, or I put it on here with just a power supply hooked up to it. I got it to boot, no problem. Build it up in here, and it did the exact same thing. I wound up having to take out the motherboard for some reason, post it on the desk, then I put it back in and it worked. So I've just had the worst time with this whole thing, and I want it to be done. And now it's done. So I'm at Watch Timmy Joe Instagram and Twitter. I want to thank that guy sawing the piece of rebar across the street. I want to thank ASRock for sending me the motherboard. I will let you know if I have any issues with it or anything like that, but so far it seems like an incredible board with all kinds of features, great VRM, definitely get the most overclocking out of it. And as far as a high-end Z490 motherboard, it's not actually priced like crazy like some of the other manufacturers go, so it's a really good high-end motherboard to get because it's definitely cheaper than some of the others. And it has, you know, a bunch of VRM cooling, little fans, stuff like that. Trident Royal, I mean, if you got the money for it, this stuff is the best RAM that's out there, bar none. It's 4000 megahertz CL17, set the XMP profile, 1.35 volts at 4000 megahertz. You believe that? That's crazy. And LianLi, your stuff's amazing. It's really solid built. It's a little harder to build in, I will admit, because it's not just the cookie cutter case everyone's making. In the side panels, it's kind of weird how you have to pull that down to pull this out. But it's got magnets, it's got everything. You can even take this and put it on the AIO cooler in the middle there. Open this up, just throw it there. You can have a little different look in there if you want. You know, all kinds of options with all this stuff, and LianLi makes some really good stuff. That's why I wanted to include the case and the cooler in my test bench. And now it looks really great. Got a little bit of white going on. I've posted some pictures on Twitter. It was all RGB puke, but I usually just set one color, usually white or blue. And there's the builds, and I really like the way the little diamonds on the RAM look with that white going on there. It's really nice. So I'm at Watch Timmy Joe Instagram, Twitter. This is my 2020 10th generation test bench. I don't think I'm going to look for a 10900K because I'm actually just done with Intel. I'm really hoping that the next generation of AMD, like legit, you know, across the board, everyone says, wow, AMD made faster CPUs on all accounts than Intel, and I will switch to them because I've had nothing but problems with this 10th generation and not a whole lot of problems with Ryzen lately. Ryzen's been pretty amazing, and all you need is that extra little bit to get the full FPS in games that Intel's giving you, and I will switch 100% over to AMD for everything, because I've just had no issues with them. So at Watch Timmy Joe Instagram, Twitter, thanks for listening to me babble. This is my build in the LianLi Lancool 2 mesh, my GPU test bench for 2020, and the rest of it, whatever. I'll see you guys in another video. Thanks for watching.